Hi everyone, this is Lana Yelenyev, Chair for Neurodiversity Foundation, and today we have another esteemed guest for our Neurodiversity Pride Day interviews. And I've met Prof. Amanda through LinkedIn and have been following her ever since with her posts and all the insights that she's been sharing. So, Prof. Amanda, can you share us a bit? How did you get into this, field of neurodiversity?
Sure. So I come from a really neurodivergent family. So if you go back, great grandparents and grandparents and parents and my uncles and my children and grandchildren. So we've got neurodivergence everywhere on both sides of my family. So I was a doctor and working in pediatrics, and my middle child was diagnosed with dyspraxia and then developmental coordination disorder and then dyslexia and ADHD. And at the time I was going from place to place trying to get appropriate advice and guidance. And I found this pretty exhausting, started talking to other parents and finding they were having a similar sort of experience to that, and found that pretty exhausting. So then I stupidly, I suppose, in a way, started with a blank canvas and said, this isn't good enough, and opened up a centre nearly 30 years ago for children and adolescents, where it was an interdisciplinary centre with health and educational professionals under one roof, because I felt that parents and families needed to have general support. That led me on to doing research in the field and then studying as well, providing the clinical practice, doing training and teaching. And then I got my prof bit, and then I did a PhD after that, which is a bit unusual. I sort of do things backwards. And then I did a PhD in emerging adulthood around this area, moving into the workplace, because I wanted to know for my son what was going to happen next. And then as I became a grandparent, I realized my grandchildren have got a grandchild who's neurodivergent as well. And I thought, this things haven't stopped, and we've still got a way to go. But then recently, I suppose I've reflected also that I'm probably neurodivergent as well. And so if you turn the clock all the way around to the beginning, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So genes are everywhere, and my husband and I are both, and we've learned a lot, and I learn from everybody around me. So a family, personal story, really, and still a passion.
And I love it that you took the reins and said, I want to do something different. And we need, actually, society needs people like you to say, okay, I see things differently. It's not going well. How can we do things differently? Which is why this topic on adversity is very much important, given the situation that is happening right now. We had COVID, we had global unrest. I'm curious, within the field that you are in, what are you seeing as the state of neurodivergent individuals?
So I think one of the things is we wouldn't have been having this conversation 5 years ago. We certainly wouldn't have been having this conversation 10 years ago. So that's a celebration that over the last few years there's increasing acceptance of people who have all different sorts of brains and connections and strengths, and we're recognizing that. And I think there's been a move away from categorization to personalization and recognition. So that's a big thing, and that we can celebrate people's strengths and also recognizing challenges and being open to address those, and whether those are societal or they're personal. I think we're at the starting point. We've got a way to go, because I think we've got champions in the field who are like, go out there and everybody should know, and we've got a way to go to raise awareness more broadly, so in society, in education and in employment, so it doesn't become a thing to disclose, rather than actually it's part of who you are. Like I would say, I need some help with training I need support with. In the workplace, it becomes a normal part of a dialogue with people to say, what are my needs to be able for me to do my job? So it's improving, positively improving, but we've got a way to go.
In this way to go, I'm curious in terms of what have you been seeing in the workplace wherein neurodivergents are challenged with and are grappling with?
Well, I think a number of things. One is that there's two elements. We've got you as an employer and you as an employee, and organizations really thinking about, so as an employer, for the employer to come in, we need the employer to be aware of how do we make our workplace diverse and equitable at all points. So this isn't happening all over the place. So that goes in how you advertise your jobs, how you do your job descriptions, what happens with your interviews, that they're fair, that they're not just getting a cookie cutter of somebody that always looks the same, and you're not actually thinking, maybe your interview process excludes certain people, so they never get into your workplace, not because they can't do it, but because of your processes. So I think there is a way, we've got a way to go for employers to see they don't know who doesn't apply for the job. So you never know who, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, well, the job description says all of these things, but I can't do all of them. I said, but you don't necessarily need to do all of them. But so some people would say, well, I can't apply for the job. So if the job descriptions don't tell you about the job itself and don't have everything in it, lots of people get put off. The interview process maybe isn't conducive to somebody who's on the autism spectrum. It may be that you're doing theoretical interviews, so what happens if, and that might be harder for some people. So the application process, the interview process may be creating barriers. For the employer also, they need to have greater awareness that line managers can have a conversation with you. So it's a really big thing. If you feel like you've had bad experiences of sharing or disclosing before that you are neurodivergent, you may feel very reticent about doing this again. So line managers need to be able to have the conversation, the communication, the words and the confidence to be able to do so. So there's that side, and those are the big barriers. And then from the employee's perspective, is having the skills and the confidence to be able to feel that you can ask for help. And the response you get is going to be appropriate, and how to do so, and how to positively sell your strengths. So I think those are things that we have to help people as well to become confident to do so and to see what your strengths are. Because you might have been knocked back at school and you might have been knocked back at different points in time.
Yeah, and from your experience, especially with the work that you're doing, how much do you see as, how much do we know now in terms of how to do these things, how to shift interviews, how to ask the right questions? In your experience, what have you seen so far? Are we slightly improving? Are we making strides on this?
Well, we've got a ways to go. And I think, the other thing is in the UK, 99% of employers are small and medium enterprises. They're not huge corporate organizations. And I think that when we encourage employers to be able to are confident of all sizes of companies, I think that's when we really achieved it. Now, what we've seen is larger organizations have said, okay, we need to have a equality, diversity, and inclusion manager. We need to be thinking about approaches. Neurodiversity is on the table. It's sort of, we're going to look at BME and we're going to look at neurodiversity. We've actually got to look at people because all these things intersect. People are not neat in these boxes. So, but we're seeing organizations getting it on the agenda that it wasn't on the agenda even 2 or 3 years ago. But those are generally big organizations, and most countries, most people don't work for those big organizations. So we've got a ways to go. We've been doing some training. We've produced some little e-learning materials for organizations which are short and accessible, and we've got to be practical how we upskill people. So we've got to do it in a way that's timely and cost effective, that people will engage and realize, actually, if you do this right, it's good for your customers too. So what's good for business makes people interested usually. So we can say, well, actually, you get better people in, you keep better people, and your customers might be neurodivergent as well. So you're actually improving your relationship with the customers as well. And that starts to get people to think, okay, it's worth it.
I love this, because it's somehow, how do we level the field, right? There's that idea of if we can add all these solutions in, or I would say modify things of
Modifications, yeah.
terms of how we do things. And from your experience, what has been the biggest resistance so far as to why, these changes are not happening?
I think some people often think that it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot in money, it's going to cost a lot in time, and that is a fallacy. Because actually, the thing that doesn't cost anything, but it does cost a lot, is attitude. So attitude and culture of an organization, the bit that says, somebody says to me, what help do you need? How can I best support you? And often the response is, can I just sit in the corner facing that direction? Can I do, some of these things are not about money. They're about having that conversation. And so I think the biggest barrier is not having the conversation. The biggest fear from the employer is it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost me time. It's going to cost me effort. So I might as well, I don't want to think about it. But actually, they have people in every workplace already who are neurodivergent. How much better to optimize people's performance just by having a conversation? People are there already. They're just not telling you they're there. That's the difference. They might not be telling you, but they're still there. But you could be missing out on talent. And I think that's the bit. In a world where it's chaotic, we need to bring new talent in to find new solutions. And that's where neurodivergent people can come with a whole variety of skills that we're losing out on so often.
I love, pulling that word in, the optimization part, because I think especially from my experience as an educator, teachers are, it's going to be too difficult, it's going to take too much time, it's going to take too much energy. So the resistance is more on how much it would take from them rather than how much it would optimize the entire process.
Yeah. So if you go back to, you remember the cycling Olympics, and British cyclists did extremely well in the Olympics. And what they did was the accumulation of what's called accumulation of marginal gains. So if you think about a bucket which you're trying to fill with little drips, small things are important and accumulate. And actually, most of the actions that you do for somebody, when you add them up, are tiny things, but to that person, it makes a big difference. So if it's a noisy environment and I can't work, letting me wear headphones could be incredibly powerful for me. If I have got difficulties recording and spelling, using some software that does spell check, grammar check could change my life. It could stop me sending emails with lots of errors that people don't understand and don't see what I'm telling you about. So I think that's the bit. These are small but have a massive impact, and it's not about effort. It's having that conversation, and it's having that personal conversation. Not saying for people with dyslexia have this stuff, and people with ADHD get this stuff. It's actually about you in the context of your work. What do you need to do your job?
This is fascinating to explore, because then the idea of being an advocate of yourself is important.
Very.
So given the challenges that neurodivergents face, especially in the workplace, what do you say as important for them to be the best advocate for themselves?
Well, I think we have to do a sort of sales spiel, in a sense of being able to sell your strengths. And sometimes we're apologetic. Sometimes we're going, I'm really sorry because I have, this is a problem, And we don't go, I can do your job, but these are the support needs I need to optimize my performance. That's a very different thing to say, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this. And it's a very different selling thing. But I think that's a bit which takes confidence. And I think our self-esteem and well-being have to be at the core of that. And some people we know have been bullied in school, self-esteem has been a bit hammered, they might feel anxious or reticent. So actually being able to practice those skills and gain them, so you've got the confidence to be able to say, this is me, and with all the things I am, and these are the things I find harder to do, it's something, you need some practice. So we need to enable people to do that. And they need to feel the confidence that when they do, that's not going to be somebody at the other side that says, so, or I've never heard of that, So if the response is negative, then that puts you off. So I think that can start in school, because it's a reframing. Neurodiversity is a reframing of who you are as an individual, to see that you've got strengths and challenges. And this is you've got a spiky profile.
And I love this. I love this importance of where we need to start. And I would even say it starts with families, right? It starts with
absolutely
with having that as a foundation. And it seems like we're in a catch up, given that in the workplace we're catching up on all of these things. And
we are.
So if given that, what do you think are the best opportunities for growth that neurodivergents can now expect, or experience in the workplace? What's changing in the landscape?
I think what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years is something which is really important. There are growing networks of people who are successful and who are talking about being neurodivergent, and also people who are at different stages of their levels of employment in science and creative industries and fintech and different sectors. And you're hearing groups of nurses and medics talking, and creative industries talking, and people coming together, and that helps. So it's really important. If I'm growing up as a young person now, I have got some models I can see of more people at different stages in their employment life saying, actually, I can see somebody can be a CEO, they can be in the cash till, they're on the bus, and you're seeing more people coming and saying, this is me, and I'm doing what I want to do, and I am where I am. I think we've just got to be cautious to say everybody's going to be a CEO of a big major company, because that's just not true. And not all of us want to be either. So actually and that's really positive, seeing more models and more people coming together and supporting each other really is very helpful, because we can learn so much from each other.
Prof. Amanda, thank you for sharing your lens on how we can grow together, especially in the workplace. Can you tell us more? Where can people find you if they want to know more about your work?
Yeah.
How can people connect with you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn at Prof. Amanda Kirby. I'm on Twitter at Prof. Amanda Kirby, and I post all the time, just the burning issues that I wake up in the morning and I'm annoyed about, or upset, or challenged, or want to pass on. And also doitprofiler.com, doitprofiler.com. And that's where our screening tools are. We've got profiler apps as well to look at your spiky profile. So come and find me.
Thank you again for celebrating Neurodiversity Pride Day with us and sharing your lens. And we're looking forward to having more conversations with you, and probably to also talk more about this profiler work that you have. So they're very interesting stuff. So again, thank you. And for those who are watching, we'll include the links for how you can contact Prof. Amanda.
Thank you very much indeed for asking me.